Welcome to the Been There, Sold That podcast, where you can take away sales and business tips to grow your business efficiently, effectively, and profitably. Take it away, Brianna Hendley and Phil Whitebloom.
Welcome to the Been There, Sold That podcast with Phil Whitebloom and Brianna Hendley. And today we have a special guest. And our special guest is Neil Twa. And I'm so excited for you guys to hear about him and see the work that he's doing. So Neil Twa is a seasoned entrepreneur and the CEO of Voltage Digital Marketing, where he specializes in helping e-commerce businesses scale to 6- and 7-figure profits. Heck yes. With over 15 years of experience in building and managing e-commerce brands, Neil is known for his data-driven strategies, innovative approach to online sales, and ability to help businesses unlock their full potential. As a thought leader in the Amazon FBA space, Neil has not only built his own successful brands, but also has coached countless entrepreneurs on how to create profitable and sustainable e-commerce businesses. His expertise spans everything from product sourcing and launch strategies to scaling operations and maximizing profitability. Neil's unique combination of hands-on experience, industry knowledge, and passion for entrepreneurship makes him an invaluable resource for anyone looking to thrive in the competitive world of online business. Join us as we dive into Neil's journey, his proven methods for e-commerce success, and actionable insights you won't want to miss. So thank you, Neil.
That was a mouthful. I'm going to have to live up to that.
Yeah, but we're out of time, so don't worry about it.
Well, that's it. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Everybody have a great day. Tip your waiters.
I know there was so much to say.
That's enough to get my head out of this camera. It's going to be too much bigger than the screen.
Yeah. Hey, so Neil, let's let our audience get to know you a little bit. Could you share a little bit about your background and how you got to where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, long story short, I've been online since the internet came about, which at this day and age makes you feel like an old person, but I'm not that old. I'm only 48. But I mean, the internet has changed so much about the way we do business and commerce and facilitate, daily lives and even these calls and remote things we do, which is fantastic. Because I do live now on 50 acres in the country with my family. Technically, it's about 65, but we homeschool, we do life. I built a business as a lifestyle as opposed to going out and trying to conquer the, vanity metrics of 50 or 100 employee businesses, and which I appreciate very much not having in the world we live in now, frankly. And I got involved in it when my friend had a computer. We were too poor to have a computer, and we went over to his house and played on the AOL message boards and stuff and got to see what that all looked like and kind of got a inkling for that. And by the time I got to college, which I went to school on a full ride music scholarship just because that's what I could do, and I didn't really want to do that. Technically, I wanted to be a fighter pilot in the Air Force, and since I got rejected for that, I was like, well, crap, now I'm going to college. So I fell out of college 3 years in twice and had to reapply to get in because I didn't want to be there, and there was no reason for me to be there. And frankly, the internet coming online saved my life because I decided, well, I wanted to be in e-commerce of some kind. At that point, I didn't know about the, really about the physical product side of it. I just knew I wanted to do something in that digital commerce space, and I wasn't sure what just yet. So because things were moving so quickly, I jumped into the corporate world because that's kind of what you do, right? Academics didn't have the mechanisms to deploy. I mean, when I was in there, we were putting the first computers into the storage place down below that they cleaned out as a closet to put computers in for the first computer lab. So like nobody knew what the heck they were doing, right? We were wiring those things together and just trying to figure it out. And so corporate was spending a lot of money, so that's where I went and figured out how to program because I didn't know how to do that. So I started building programs, and that got me in a contracting job where I was writing programs for Sprint long distance in Kansas City. Building knowledge management systems actually to collaborate all the information that was happening so fast, so quick. I mean, we think AI is moving fast now, right? This was moving incredibly fast, hand over fist. They were hiring anybody with a pulse and saying, do this, right? So I'm up till 2 a.m. learning how to code so I can come back the next day and do the work, right? And so that gave me an opportunity to get a full-time gig at Sprint with a new division called PCS, Personal Communication Services. It was the launch of the mobile phones. And I got to witness that from the inside out. I was a 5,028th badged employee, hired from inside of all the Sprint's warm bodies to just throw at this mobile thing and see what they could do. In 5 years, there was 80,000 employees inside of that. So it grew hyper fast. It was incredible to watch. I used to joke there was somewhere inside of that enterprise we could pull a plug and the entire thing would shut off. It was just baling wire, duct tape, and Excel spreadsheets running the whole thing. But that led me to some really great projects and success, learning how to do business at that volume and that size and scale. And there's 2,500 reps and on the telecom side, and we were supporting them. And I was part of the team of 5. I was a 21-year-old, got thrown into that with a team of 5 people who were twice my age and said, "Here, manage these people." And we were building out this connection of data to help basically answer calls and phones that were going so fast people couldn't keep it together. And so we built this management system, and it actually became the first knowledge management implementation of a corporate enterprise. And with that, IBM came in to say, "Hey, what did you do? How do we do this better?" And over a year of doing that, they hired me out of Sprint. So I went to work for IBM. No degree and a lot of experience. So really, I figured out very quickly, it's who you know that gets you there, and it's what you know that keeps you there. And with that, it started to really set the precedence for me as to what real business was like and how it was done. And not having that experience, Dad, 30 years in the same job. He, was a high school dropout and went to the Navy and learned how to become a boilerman. 2 tours of Vietnam. He was a scruff old boy, and I loved it because he was the suck it up buttercup kind of guy. And, so he really taught me about resilience and hard work, but he knew nothing about money. In our house, that was a 4-letter word. So you don't talk about it because you disrespect Dad. And so I always figured out, try to figure out how to make that money work or how to get it done, and, side hustle through mowing lawns and other stuff just to figure out how to make that money work. Because there was enough to get the food, but there was not enough for anything else you wanted. Like anything else you wanted, you got to get yourself. So I always figured out how to hustle. And that was just one of the things I became tenacious about, was figuring out how to hustle. And so I hustled my way into IBM and spent almost 5 years in there, deploying things, sitting in the boardrooms of some of the largest companies in the world, traveling the world. By the time I was 27, I'd seen many countries and saw inside of many boardrooms, which was quite fascinating experience. But by the time 2007 came around, my mentor, who was my uncle, my rich dad, who had started a company and a boat building business, and I got to see that from the inside out, and he was much more entrepreneurial in nature. And so I got to have a lot of conversations with him about business and life, and he had such a different way of thinking. His mind was so different. And I started to realize how much of your mindset really matters when it comes to business, and not the actual business you do. It matters so much about the way you think. And with that, he taught me so many amazing things and introduced me to so many amazing people that really kind of exploded my brain. But he died in 2005 in an ultralight aircraft accident. And by 2007, when IBM said, "Hey, we have this new opportunity, or you can take early retirement," that's when I knew it was time to burn the boats. And so I left. And then 17 years later, I've not looked back. I've created multiple online and offline businesses. Been blessed to spend every day with my family and my kids. If we don't travel, maybe 3 times in 17 years, because I traveled, we called it I've been moved at IBM. So I was always on a plane twice a week doing something. And I did not want that lifestyle, right? I didn't want it for my kids. I didn't want it for my family. And so I did anything possible, down to selling the house we had built and selling the cars, and, extending the opportunity to let that business have a fair shot at it, and risking anything possible to make that happen. And so I did. But I never would regret doing that and taking the chance to get where I'm at now. We built multiple brands, had extremely successful companies in the physical product world. We've gone through the Kiyosaki quadrants from, being the employee to the self-employed to the business owner, now the business investor. And so now we're in the M&A side as well, acquiring companies, continuing to build the brands and exit them, and are, established a pretty good holdings company now with multiple brands and entities and consulting and software and acquisitions inside of it. So sorry, that's a long rant just now.
Yeah. Wow. It was great. It was great. I mean, there's so many places you could go with this. And we don't have enough time to do all these things. So we're going to do the Neil Twa series on the Been There, Sold That podcast.
There you go. Or series it, or summarize it.
Or summarize it. But let's dive into the e-commerce business. Maybe we could take this from trying to help our listeners and the people who follow you, as to learn about how to get into the e-commerce business, what kind of things to watch for, what kind of things and I love your comment on mindset. Right? Brianna and I are always talking about this kind of thing, maybe not with that exact word, but definitely with the same kind of mission, if you will, because if you don't have the proper mindset, you're going to struggle.
And there's a similarity and familiarity to those folks across all the industries that I've come to know, regardless of what vertical of business they decided that was for them or matched their circle of confidence.
Right.
There's similarities in each of those individuals, and it really comes down to their tenacious can-do attitude. They say, in our world, it's a KNOW, not a no, unless it's a hell no. So until then, you keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, the fundamentals of e-commerce, really, at the end of the day, the question you were asking, most people get down to the first question, what the heck do I actually sell? And that really gets back to, when I was first consulting in this business a long time ago, we'd finally reached our first 7 figures in e-commerce. And of course, once you do that, enough people around you are like, hey, how did you do this? What did you do? This is weird. I've never heard anybody doing this before, such and such. And, I got on the call with this guy, and he'd paid me for an hour of time to work with him. And, I went through the protocols of developing, the first product ideas and conditioning and how to look for product ideas and kind of do that. I remember getting to the end of the call, and after all that, I thought I'd really articulated it well. I thought I had him dialed in. I thought he was going to get this. And he just looked at me and he goes, but what the heck do I sell? And it just stuck with me. It's like, okay, we're not getting this yet. There has to be some other way to translate this conversation. And what it got down to was conditioning. He simply wasn't conditioned to start looking for products as a buyer and a seller. He was still conditioning himself as a consumer, like so many of us are. And with that, we tend to think that the opportunity is invention, not innovation. And with that, we overcomplicate the process, meaning we think we need to think of some idea that no one has ever thought of, so unique and holistic that it's, build your dreams, and it's the Iowa, cornfield thing. If you build it, they will come. And it's this Shark Tank mentality that we've gotten locked to, and because of the, systems and propaganda that we're setting under. So in the long story short, really innovation is the key. If you can innovate differentiation in it, that's where your opportunity begins. It's that similarity and familiarity of the product type. It's just slight innovations to the product that allows you a unique selling position that someone else doesn't have against that product. It is what I call the crock pot to Instapot to air fryer process. Okay. They are all in similar category and fashion, but they are all just innovations of each other, and they're all billion-dollar companies. Why? Because someone just innovated grandma's, crock pot into the Instapot, which was not your grandma's crock pot. That was literally it, right? It's the whole concept of being safe and making it easy for a warm meal. And now we're super busy and everybody's going, but you want that warm meal and you want that healthy food for your kids, but you're afraid it's going to burn the house down if you leave the crock pot running. Well, Instapot was the solution because it sets the timer, it has temperature controls, it has more technology, it makes you feel safer while still cooking faster than grandma's crock pot, which would take all day, and Instapot can do it in a few hours and such and such. And so they simply just innovated against the fears that people had, and they simply brought the benefits forward of what that product would do that grandma's crock pot wouldn't. And air fryer just did the same thing to Instapot, right? They just, went for it's a mini kitchen, and you can do this really quickly, and 2 to 4 people can eat, very fast and kind of have a healthy meal, and you don't cook with fats and oils and all this stuff. So when we think about products, we really need to think about them more simplistically. We need to think about them more in a conditional statement of looking at the products and saying, what's familiar, what's similar to this product, and could I sell one? Okay. And if you've ever bought anything on Amazon, this is a really simple exercise. Just pull up on your Amazon app and look at the last 180 days of products that you've bought personally, and recognize by Amazon's own admission, 60% of those are sold by third-party sellers like us. Okay. And with that, about $300 and something billion a year pumps through that system to third-party businesses. So with that, you then look and say, okay, are any of those products I could potentially sell? And here's some of the simple criteria for those of you paying attention at home. $50 to $250 in retail price point. Okay. A first level analysis that says, well, could it be profitable at $50 to $250? If I just look in the market and say, can I find another one for cheaper than that? Could I just do a simple brain arbitrage that says, well, I found this one, it's $99, but there's another one for $39. Okay. It's very similar. I could probably sell that and make a profit. Just a first level analysis says there's a good chance I could sell that profitably. Put it on a list, write it down. First exercise of learning is to take mental activity and put it into a physical action. Okay. That translates it back from tacit to implicit knowledge in your brain. And with that continued activity, you start the process over 21 days of changing and forming new habits. And in 21 days, we challenge everybody to find 500 products on their list.
Wow.
When they get through the process, they'll find very quickly you can get to 100 and 200 and 300 products extremely fast. Because once you just start thinking and doing and going, and it becomes a normal act of your life, just 18 minutes a day for 21 days, okay? And you are now in the process of thinking like a seller. You're starting to see products for what they are and why they are. And you should start asking yourself, in my circle of confidence, my friends, family, my spouse, my significant other, why do we buy this product? Who's using it? What's the benefits of it? Why do we buy the 99 or the 199 when there's a $39 or $49 version? Okay, was it perception? Was it brand? Was it because someone else told us? We heard this conversation and somebody said it was great, and we kind of perceived that its value to us was going to be greater even though we paid more money. It's this thing that it's the psychology of the buyers, we refer to it. And this happened the other day, and just most real time. There's a guy who had this little story he'd put out on an article. I don't know if it was Forbes or something like that. But he was talking about arbitraging products, which we don't. We're private label, brand building, intrinsic value, trademarks, and building all the IP necessary, not just flipping products for profit. We're building brands for exit. Very different. But he was just flipping some products. He'd found a free product that he wanted to sell. And so he decided to, put it on the marketplace. Well, at first he just wanted to see how it would go. So he had it out there for free. Well, nobody wanted to buy it. So nobody even wanted to take it. So he put a $150 sticker price on it, and all of a sudden he had 2 sellers, and 2 hours later he'd sold it. So the perception of value is not relative to the product itself. It's relative to the outcome of the person. Do they want to sleep better, jump higher, lose weight, run faster? So when you really think about the benefits of the driven aspect of the product, they should all go on your list and build this big list of product ideas, okay? And then the really big factor for us, the next step, and it should be for you too, is the profit of the product, okay? How do I make that product profitable? We call it going by the numbers. And that is to ensure that looking at it and thinking about it as a seller, you determine all the costs it would take for you to sell a single unit of that product, and ensure you know what those costs are, so that when you put all that into the top of your net, you get your net profit to fall out the bottom. And that is what you actually keep, okay? What you can actually market and value, what you pay for yourself, you pay for others, you pay for the business. And of course, the more you keep, the more you can make this business move forward. And profit is literally not a 4-letter word, although so many people in business think it is. And new people think it's all profit, it's greed. No. You have a job if you're thinking that, because somebody else is thinking about profit. That's why you have a job as the business owner of the company. And you have to be thinking that way too as a business owner. Profit is not greed if you're supplying a purpose. And this is why I like the physical product and the virtual real estate of these, while a physical product is the transaction. So something I really want you to think of in the last part of this conversation here is that we're actually selling data to AI engines. We're selling listings to artificial intelligence. It is selling products to customers. It is delivering products to customers through those mechanisms. So products fulfill the transactional request, okay, that we provide value to them in a physical manner through the product by which they exchanged money, a median, to get us to deliver the product as expected to them, okay, a good product, a quality product, but it is just the transaction. The outcome of that transaction is whatever they do with it to support the goal and objective they had for that product when they purchased it. I can't make them run, right? I can't make them jump. I can't make them take the pills. I can't make them use the skin. I can't make them, cook better. But the product is the outcome of that mechanism. So what am I actually doing, and what would you be doing with physical products? You would be a direct marketer. You would be convincing them to buy your product above somebody else's. The physical product is the transaction. So we need to invert the relationship, because people get caught up in the complexity ideas of physical products, not recognizing that that's not the opportunity. The opportunity is to learn how to sell something to anybody in a box in 30 seconds or less. And once you get trained on that, you realize you can open the world of product and physical product opportunities and scale.
I've got a quick question for you. So this is great. And I'm taking notes. So I'm a huge note taker, and I want to make sure that I hit all the key points. So I'm hearing that you focus on products specifically with Amazon, correct?
First channel of an e-commerce business we tackle is Amazon. It's where the 200 million buyers are. They're there to buy things in 30 seconds or less. It's eyeballs on the offer, right? Where are the buyers?
Yeah. So have you guys tapped into like TikTok Shop or anything like that? Because I feel like that's okay, cool. Because I feel like that's like the next thing. Everything that you're saying, I'm like, that reminds me of the things I see on TikTok.
I am talking about it holistically, and I'm glad you caught up on that, because really Amazon, it's now become a demand capture platform. Okay. Different sites, TikTok, even 30% of television commercials that even don't say Amazon end up flowing over to Amazon to find the product. Okay. Shopify stores online, Facebook, everything that's running ads ends up about 30% of the time back on Amazon. So we now know it's a demand capture platform. It's also the 6th largest logistics company in the world, with the fulfilled by Amazon infrastructure and now their AWD or Amazon warehouse distribution and the AGL services as third party. They are a large logistics infrastructure, and we leverage that as almost automated income because it's literally automation, where I no longer have 21,000 square feet and 12 employees, which I used to have. I have fully automated systems of movement, so I can watch blinky lights and dashboards of products moving in container wise across the world. And so we work more in the digital and logistics space than the physical product movement and, drop shipping space, which is not what we're in because the systems move all that product for us.
Oh, I was gonna say they opened up a distribution center right across the street from my house because it figured they just cut their transportation costs.
100%, and get more products to people faster, which is why the new drone thing's coming out and stuff, right? So it is a giant logistics facility that, translates products as transactional, even though the data side of Amazon's where it makes its money. Right, AWS or services like Netflix are hosted on them, but they are going to be, it's actually not the most profitable in 2026. Amazon's turning into a digital marketing company on competition level of Google. So they are actually becoming a data-driven warehouse that just supplies physical products as part of that transaction, but it's the services for Prime and the data and the advertising is where they're going to make their most money as of 2026. It's flipping, right? So as we learn and understand this change, we understand the opportunities that are presented in front of us. And with TikTok, it is a demand creation platform where you can get on and people can see videos and learn things about products they've never heard before as they're building kind of an audience conversation in their head about that product. And then they're ending up over on Amazon if they don't trust it. So much so that while Amazon and TikTok Shop tried to compete, Brianna, they actually are going into partnership now to allow Amazon products to be bought one click inside of TikTok shops. So while they resisted that and couldn't do it, and TikTok tried to go start fulfilled by TikTok, they realized, well, this is stupid. We can't compete with this infrastructure. So let's just see if we can leverage it. So now they're going to be coming out very shortly with an integration that will allow you to buy Amazon products right within TikTok Shop. So they're using the demand creation and capture aspect of it. So you want to be there. You want to learn what those products are like. If you do a great job of that, it will translate back to sales on Amazon for those that spill over when they find you. Okay. If they don't, you could be like a guy I just read in one of the forums whose inventory and stuff stocked out on Amazon because somebody else's competitor video on TikTok went viral. And when they couldn't find that product and they didn't want to order it on TikTok, they went to Amazon and bought all his product instead because his competitor couldn't be found on Amazon. So he stole out of all of his inventory very, very fast. Which is really what we call a holistic or a halo effect. So as you have your website, Amazon, things like TikTok Shop, or even Facebook ads and digital marketing assets pulling to different channels, you should have each of these as a foundation and a holistic framework. I see Amazon now like the days when websites came online and you needed a brochure in order to prove you were a legitimate business, right? And once you see that, people are thinking you're legitimate. Well, now brands and people are becoming, enough driven in their understanding of purchasing power and decision making and review process and stuff that they're looking around and saying, okay, do you have an Amazon, presence? Can I find you? If not, you may not be legitimate. I saw you on a Facebook ad, but I went over to Amazon and I couldn't find you, so you must not be a legitimate company. So you need that Amazon presence now as one of the legs of your, multi-channel e-commerce business.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Phil and I were talking about just having that loyal customer base. And I feel like historically, when you're utilizing social media, it's so easy. I say easy, quote, air quotes. It's so easy to create a following and people just want to gobble up whatever you have as an influencer. So I would almost think that definitely helps to support. And you just said that it did. So
it does.
I love that they're now working together. And for those folks who are super smart that don't want to be an influencer, you can just kind of, like you said, have that leverage or apply that leverage to things that are hot and just be there and available and
just be available in new ways to get control, because people are, as they're becoming smart in their positioning, they are looking at brands and saying, where do I want to put my money? Once upon a time, in here, we kind of pivoted through the growth of consumerism through online and e-commerce transactions. And now people are starting to come kind of down the back end of that slide a little bit. And surprisingly enough, in direct mailing, okay, one of the oldest, professions of digital marketing, quote unquote, in the world, the 18 to 35-year-olds are now the fastest growing demographic of buyers through direct mail, right? They're getting off their cell phones. They've been inundated with it since they've been alive, which is hard for some of us to comprehend that, some of these people were born in 2000 and have been in the cell phone age their entire life. And so now they're rejecting some of that and looking for the narrative driven brands, the brands they can connect with, the brands that have an emotional connectivity and appeal that reach them in different ways that are not just digital. So direct mail to 18 to 25-year-olds, are the fastest growing demographic of buyers.
So Neil, you spurred a question in my mind here. We've been talking about the e-commerce and Amazon as products. Both Brianna and I work with the majority of the people we work with are services-based companies. And just not by plan, it's just how it is for us right now. Do you see services-based companies on Amazon now? And do you see a place for that and how to sell services through Amazon as opposed
Actually,
to
Amazon has a services division. Not a whole lot of people know about it. There is a particular person, and not a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, who helped him get started on this with a plumbing company that went from a few million a year to 50 million a year in about 4 years, using Amazon as a lead source for products that the plumbers could go and install. So when they signed up for a registered service provider on Amazon, which you can do as a service-based company, if you are installing plumbing or doing electrical or doing finishing work around anything that has to do with physical products that you would do in the home or business, you can sign up for that. And what happens is when someone buys that product, say they buy a kitchen sink, or they want a dishwasher or whatever, and they order it through Amazon, well, then it's going to provide them with a list of localized service providers that they could select based on rating, that when they buy that, they can also get an appointment for that service technician to come and install that after their purchase. And so that's what he did. And what happened was it just exploded his business. So the simple answer is yes, you can sign up as a service provider. Okay. You can get rated. And then when people buy products that are local to your area, they can then make service appointment calls to have that installed by your technicians. And you get paid through the Amazon mechanism. So basically you just get free leads and service calls. And as long as you're doing a great job and get good reviews, it could grow extremely fast.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Most people don't even know about it. I don't know why it's so quietly hidden away. But for service companies, it's an amazing opportunity to drive leads out of just existing, because you don't have to provide the product, you provide the service against someone buying that product locally.
Got it. So marketing continues to be a struggle for people in the small and medium-sized business.
It does. It always.
And how much of a play does marketing take place in your e-commerce world?
So for us, here's a couple of things. Well, I have the consulting side in which I help businesses and business owners grow and establish brands and grow them out as operators. The reason I do that is because we have what's called a first right of refusal for any client that comes in, a non-contractual obligation, but a gentleman's agreement, if you will, that when that business reaches a certain level of maturity, before they sell it on the market, they go off market to us and let us have a first stab at buying it. So as part of the PE agreement, and I have companies I'm raising up, I understand their profitability. I'm helping them elevate their profitability. So I'm both the beginning and the end. So that opportunity extends itself out into the marketing world through my book funnel sales or sales of my book on Amazon, and other mechanisms through podcasting and stuff, in which I constantly keep a presence in front of people, just talking about the facts of business. Which usually in some weird way seems to be contrary to the 19-year-old life coaches and the wonders on YouTube as to how fast you can make money in unrealistic terms. And so I keep kind of a constant cadence of the realism of business and the longevity of business and what it takes to actually build a business and fund a business and operate a business. And so that tends to drive in a higher quality lead set in the way that we do things. And I podcast out myself on the High Voltage Business Builders podcast as a way to reach that audience and talk with those high level professionals. And by the grace of God, we're now a top 3% global podcast on Listen Notes, which is super cool. I've been doing it since 2021 and get to interview people. Yeah, it's fun. I didn't expect it. They stuck a mic in front of me and said, here, go talk. So that's what I do. I just talk for 25 minutes with people about business and finances and all kinds of things, Wealth Without Wall Street, and mostly e-commerce. But, the marketing aspect of it is one of those things I think that, we went through a time where there was pure digital marketing for the interest of folks, as I mentioned earlier, but we've been, a bit desensitized to the machine of marketing in a number of areas, especially I think since 2020, a lot of people have started to kind of realize, wow, I've got manipulated a lot by the conversation in the marketplace. And so I've become more skeptical about anything that I see online, and anything that I see, it's an opportunity. And so what I see business owners not doing is responding positively to that in a way in which they continue a more authentic conversation with as many people as they can, spend the time and get in front of. They still think that a straight pure marketing and direct response marketing is going to differentiate them. And it simply isn't going to do that anymore. So one of the ways I would encourage them is to spend more time getting in front of people on a more one-on-one or 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 basis, where they give out and volunteer even information that tells people exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And then help them with the implementation. And that's really a simplified key at this point to getting in front of and having an authentic conversation with somebody, and putting them, in a position to say, well, I genuinely believe that what this person is saying is true. It's what we refer to as the know, like, and trust aspect. I built it into my podcast. I built it into the framework by which I speak to people, and I built it into the framework by which I market my products. Know, like, and trust. I have to know who you are through the process. I have to like you to some degree, or what you're about, or what I think you stand for, because truthfully, both of you are hearing me today, but both of you have 2 different opinions of who I am, and both of you have heard me differently, even though you both heard me at the same time. Every person sees each person uniquely. So we can never be the same person to all people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, to us it does, because we talk about this all the time. I mean,
right?
You're reaffirming, and
you're just reaffirming the goal that you can reach both people or multiple people with 80% of the same conversation, language, tonality, know, like, and trust, because 20% of those people are going to hear something completely different than what you actually said. Right? So what you have to be willing to do is let them go.
Yeah.
And not hang on to them out of desperation.
Right.
And I think a lot of business owners who struggle to make the money, or struggle to close the sales, or struggle to get the business off the ground, they inadvertently change their mindset and language and start talking out of desperation, even though they don't realize that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They start losing their confidence and their tonality and their cadence. And that is literally like blood in the water to a shark.
Right. We can continue on for so many hours.
Yeah.
And you're just talking about confidence. In fact, I just wrote up something on confidence that'll be publishing today so it's kind of funny that it's fantastic stuff. Brianna, do you have an additional question before we ask Neil to talk about what he's working on?
I do. I've got one more before we go. I wanted to ask you, what are one of your mindset shifts or strategies that you feel is the most either important to have, or what you found has been the most successful for entrepreneurs that you've worked with?
Yeah, so there's 2 components to that, I would say, in thinking off the cuff here. And that is, most of you need to recognize your opportunity begins at the end of your excuses. So feel the fear and do it anyways. Okay. Without that fear, without that risk, you're not actually a true entrepreneur. Right? You're playing one on television. True entrepreneurs will be willing to risk it all. And until you've actually put your payroll on a credit card, don't complain to me about how difficult business can be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
One person's risk is another person's risk. And until you're willing to lay it all on the line because you believe 100% you're in the right, you're in the know, you're doing what you should be doing, and you are over the target, you can realize that, there is so much opportunity in abundance. You just have to start thinking about it without limiting beliefs. So I constantly try to remind them, that, you are the limitation to your success. The only person holding you back is you. And if you haven't never heard that before, hopefully somebody today is hearing it for the first time and actually acknowledging it.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So Brianna and I always promise everybody we meet with and our listeners that they will always have actionable takeaways. But we're not telling anybody what the takeaways are from here today, because there's so many of them. And as you said, everybody has their own. But you were a wealth of takeaways. We probably talked about the takeaways would be longer than the interview. So,
very kind of you.
What would you like to have our listeners? What are you working on? What would you like to promote today?
I'd say promote, but here's what I'm doing, and you guys take it for what it's worth. We're building brands. Okay. I'm building them in a way in which I am teaching operators how to become CEOs. So as I'm investing time and energy through my team at Voltage, we are building up operators to CEOs so they can learn how to build companies and organizations that can be based on a lifestyle driven opportunity, not the vanity metrics of revenue and how many employees you have. Okay. So with that, we teach you over a framework of 12 months how to build, grow, launch, and profit, even sell a business through the 12 months period to 24 months period it takes to build a company of size and nature. Okay. And with that, I train individuals who want to be involved in learning how to do that, even if they don't have any experience in e-commerce whatsoever, because it is a business fundamentals. First, to train them how to build a company with the end in mind, because it's worth more in the end than at any time during the business building phase. And so I want them to learn how to build and structure a 3 to 5 year plan so they can live like no one else can live after that. Through that process, I will teach them how to go through the quadrants of becoming a business, a self-employed, an owner, operator, even an investor, so they can come along with us. One of the things we're doing in a purpose-driven affect for 2025 is we partnered with a friend of mine who is a Marine veteran who formed an idea, and together we launched it in January of this year called Patriot Growth Capital. It is a veteran-backed, veteran-funded, veteran-owned, and veteran-operated private equity group. And through that process, we are acquiring companies together. Voltage is the operator, PGC is the front end. And then we are bringing in veterans to own and operate those companies so that they can purchase them from us after 5 years. So we bring them in, we train them, we employ them, and then we give them opportunity to buy the company.
Wow.
So it is a full mission-based initiative for our acquisition side. Having done this very differently in the past, I had raised about 100 million in funds to do this under an Amazon aggregator as of 2021, and then turned it down when I realized that the market was oversaturated and there was a kind of a BlackRock purchasing thing going on inside of that industry. And so we paused. And as all things, when they come into alignment a few years later, this is a much better mission at hand. So it has a much more person. So anybody interested in looking and understanding what we're doing in those areas, I encourage you to check it out. Social media is everywhere. You can go to voltagedm.com. You can go look me up as Neil Twa. You can't miss me. Yes, it is 3 letters. It's very simple. And the airlines are the only ones out there. So you can feel free to check me out on any one of those social medias or check out the book on Amazon if you want to learn the almost automated income with FBA.
Oh, I love that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time to participate on our podcast and share your wisdom and your experience with all of our listeners. I can't say enough. It's just fantastic. So
My pleasure.
thank you very much.
Well, I was honored. Thank you for having me on and for being such a
You're
great.
very welcome. And Brianna, how do people get a hold of us? Just we can remind them if they have questions for us and if they're interested in learning more about our podcast or what we do.
Sure. Just go to beentheresoldthat.com and you can see Phil and touch base and reach him where all of his information is, as well as myself. You can find me there as well. So just go right there to the podcast. So thank you very much for your time, Neil. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And hope you have a great day. And Phil.
Good selling.